Welcome to Wheel Life, the video diary that helps you to understand what life is like living with an electric unicycle. And here's what's coming up in this episode. And you join me again in this episode outside the Cock Hotel in Stony Stratford. Now, several months ago, I attempted to ride from here to Banbury Cross on a KS18XL, a 60-mile round trip, to see if that wheel could do the distance. And I'm back here again today, but this time I'm on a different wheel. I am on one of the hottest new wheels of 2020, the Veteran Sherman, and this is a beast of a wheel. I have no concerns. This wheel is going to do this trip there and back, no problem. But I'm actually going to use this time to review this wheel, to tell you the top 5 things that I love about this wheel and the 5 things that I am not too happy with. So keep watching, because if you're thinking about buying a wheel this year, I'm imagining this is on your wish list. So before you buy, listen to my top 5 things I love, or the 5 things I want to put right. Let's get started. So here I am at Banbury Cross. That's 30 miles from Stony Stratford, in an hour and 24 minutes on this amazing wheel. And that's a full 35 minutes faster than I managed to do it on the 18XL, the Kingston wheel. And when I've arrived, I've got something like 60% battery left, whereas on the 18XL I'd only got something like 35-40% left. So in unicycle terms, that is a massive evolutionary leap in terms of range and capacity. But what do I really love about this wheel, and what are the things that I'd want to change? So to find out, I'm going to change my shirt, go back to a better location and tell you what I love and what I'd want to improve. And here I am, slightly better shirt, different location. And I'm now going to give you the 5 things that I really love about this wheel, the 5 things that perhaps I would change. As I said, if you're thinking about buying a wheel this year, then I would imagine that the Sherman is going to be on your wish list. So here are the things that I think you should know before you decide which wheel to buy. The things about the Sherman. Let's start with the first things that I love. Number 1, the thing that I love from the outset, let me say, this is a fantastic wheel to ride. It is one of the best wheels I have ever ridden. It is such a solidly built machine, and when you stand on those foot plates, which are huge, it's like standing on a bench. They're so solid, and the wheel is so well put together. And for a big heavy wheel, you might be worried about it being too difficult to ride. Is it agile enough? Let me tell you, this thing just handles beautifully. The way it's balanced is to perfection. I think the construction of it puts all the weight directly on top of it rather than offsetting it to one side. With some wheels have got more batteries on one side, which means this wheel is just so easy to ride. And I'll give you an example. If you're riding a wheel at speed, sometimes you might have come across that experience of a bit of a wobble at speed. With this wheel, even going at 30 miles an hour and above, going fast, I've experienced no kind of wobble. And when you're braking and braking hard, again, I've had no kind of wobble. And if you hit a bump, then this thing just kind of rides over it. You might be thinking, do I go for a wheel with a suspension, or do I go for the Sherman? If you're thinking about having the suspension wheel, that's great, and they do a fantastic job. But I've hit bumps with this big 20-inch wheel with a big fat tyre on it, and really you don't seem to notice the bumps. You just glide straight over them. Even hitting a curb, you can hit a curb and go up a curb without any effort. You don't need any real rider skill to get up a curb. You can just go at it and it will take up a curb. And you'll see on some of the footage here, when I hit bumps with no effort, the wheel just bounces and bobbles on it. But when you land, it's balanced so well that you don't really notice the bumps. An absolute dream to ride. That's the first thing. Brilliant wheel to ride. Second thing, I would say the range of this wheel. Wow, this will do easily do, well, we'll see in my test, but do 60 miles on one charge. In the test, I'm going flat out, or I'm doing about 30 miles an hour. It's got a top speed of about 45 miles an hour, apparently. I would not advocate anybody trying to do that. People will, but if you come off at that speed, you're going to do yourself some real injury. And as the wheel is so well balanced, if you come off, there's a good chance that will keep going forever and you might never see it again. So I'm not saying people should go flat out. I've done 30 miles an hour on it. That feels fast enough. But even at that speed, the range is just massive. You can go all day on one charge. We'll see, do I get 60 miles? How much do I get? And to put it into some kind of perspective as well, it's got a 3,200 watt hour battery, which is massive. But the charging on this is excellent as well. It's got 2 ports on it, and those 2 ports can take 5 amp charges. You receive a 5 amp charger as standard, but you can actually put an 8 amp. It will take up to 8 amps, which means you can actually double up more than double up the amount of charging into this wheel and take it. I think it says on the literature that you can go from 0 to 80% in 6 hours on one 5 amp charger. But if you double that up to 2 8 amp charges, you can charge the thing in around about 2 hours from flat to 80%, which opens this wheel up some great opportunities for people that want to ride a long way. You can charge it as you go, find a space to charge it up, and you'll keep going for as long as you're able, as long as you're physically able. What a brilliant wheel for range. The next thing I'm going to say is the display. The fact that this wheel has got a display on it that you can look at a glance and see what speed you're doing and some other bits of information. It's fantastic. It's one of those things that, why didn't we think of that before? So it's the first wheel. There are other wheels will follow. I know that Gotway, their next wheel is bringing out a display on that as well. But yeah, what a fantastic thing. Big thumbs up to that. The next thing, the fourth thing I really like about it is what I'm going to describe as the utilitarian design of it. First time I saw it, I thought, is that a joke wheel? Is that real? It's a bit ugly, isn't it? But the more you look at it and you see the design and you see the way it's put together, and it reminds me of one of those old jerry cans, metal jerry cans that were designed in the Second World War, that have never been improved in their design because they were so perfect in their construction, they were so durable. This looks like you've got a jerry can. What a brilliant design. It will take a battering. The parts are modular and can be replaced quite easily, and I would imagine relatively cheaply. Yeah, and I love the chunky tyre on it. That just seems to cope well on the road. You can get a different tyre, you can get a road tyre for it, but the off-road tyre works well on the road. More about that in a moment, I guess. But that takes me on to the fifth point, and that is this wheel is just such a versatile wheel. No, I wouldn't take it in a city wheel. I wouldn't take it around a town if I'm going to take it up and down escalators, those kind of things. But for riding it, you could ride this on roads and off roads, and it copes brilliantly. I've seen it being taken up some ridiculously steep inclines in slippy, wet conditions. I've ridden it myself off road down biking trails, and it just copes with absolutely everything. And on the road, it just absolutely flies along. And it's a beautiful, versatile wheel. This wheel is designed to be ridden. It is absolutely flawless. So those are the 5 things that I love about it. Let's move on now to think about the 5 things that perhaps I would change about it. I have to say before I start, I am being incredibly picky here because there's not an awful lot wrong with this wheel. But here are the 5 things that if I could, I would change. And the first thing is, and this is a magic wand thing because you can't change this, but I would change the weight of it. I mean, this is a heavy wheel. It's something like 70 pounds or 5.5 stone in weight, which makes this a wheel that you do not want to be carrying around very often or very far. So if you are living in an upstairs flat or an apartment, then you need to factor into the price of this wheel the cost of installing a Stenner stair lift, because you do not want to be carrying this very far. Even getting it in and out of the back of the car, my advice is bend from the knees. I mean, you really do need 2 strong lads and a wheelbarrow to move this around. But I know you can't change that, because if you change that, then you change the dynamics of the wheel, you change its range, and you change its speed, and they're the big 2 selling points. So you can't do that. But if you need to be carrying a wheel, then think twice about this wheel, because this is a struggle to get around. But that's a wish list thing. Just bending down and picking it up is eye-watering. But not as eye-watering as my second point, and that is the price. This is a very expensive wheel. Yes, you're getting a lot of wheel, but you're paying a lot of money for it, and that is going to price some people out. And you look at the wheel, yes, so you are paying for that speed and that range, Otherwise it's a fairly utilitarian wheel. There's not much to it. There's no lights on the outside, there's no fancy Bluetooth speakers and that, so you're paying an awful lot for that range and that distance, and the display on the top of that I suppose as well. So yeah, it's a very expensive, and the weight of this and the price of this are going to push some people away from it, so that's fair enough. And the third thing I guess is related. For all that money that you're paying, it doesn't have a mudguard on it. Now I know you can get an after market mudguard and put that on there, and they are bringing out a mudguard for it, so fair enough. But for all the money you're paying for a wheel that comes with an off-road tyre that's clearly designed to be taken through trails and muddy places, not to have a mudguard on it seems like it's a bit of an oversight, a bit cheap from them, I don't know. So you do need a mudguard on this. I mean, the light does catch an awful lot of the mud, but it's designed to be a light, not a mudguard, and it can't be doing the light any favours by throwing water and mud at it all the time like that. So a mudguard on it would have been great. And then the fourth thing is the fact that it's got a display. Now I know that a moment ago I said having a display was a great thing, but the display, I mean, so what the display gives you, it gives you your battery level and your speed, and it does give you a distance as well, but it just looks a bit cheap and nasty, and I know there's been issues with it. So I should say as well that I've been loaned this wheel by the guys at Speedy Feet, and if you want to see a full review of the wheel, then I recommend you check out Speedy Feet's reviews, because they do a fantastic job over a long time, a long distance. And Ian from Speedy Feet experienced getting water inside this display, and it does kind of come away the edges, not well put together or constructed. And so when you buy a wheel from Speedy Feet, for example, they will make sure it's properly sealed and reseal it and do a proper job before it leaves and comes out to customers. But it's a bit of a... And to make my point further, look at this. This is a bicycle display, a computer for bicycles. Now this is a 22 function little computer, and I paid £20 for this from Argos, which is a high street shop in the UK. £20. This has got 22 functions, which includes current speed, odometer, trip distance, maximum speed, average speed, elapsed time. It's got a clock on it. It tells you the temperature and a whole range of things. It's even got a wireless heart monitor for £20. A wireless heart monitor. I mean, this wheel, you should have a wireless heart monitor for every time you try and bend over and pick it up and see if it spikes and tells you to go and have a lie down. Or certainly when you pay for it for the first time, I'm sure that would trip a few alarm bells on the wireless heart monitor. So for £20 you can get a display, a computer that does an awful lot. So for an expensive wheel, I mean, I would like to see the display doing a few more things. And I know this is the first wheel to have a display in it. That's fantastic, a huge round of applause. But I think in future the displays will have more, and I'm sure, I also guess as well, if you've got a very complex iPad style display and you crash and come off, it's going to cost you more money. But for £20 you can get a 22 function computer, so I would just expect a bit more from the computer. Okay, and then to the fifth and final point, and I could have talked about things like the noise the wheel makes. It does make a lot of noise. That off-road tyre, as you're going 30 miles an hour down the street, it sounds like a swarm of angry bees in a biscuit tin being accompanied by a male voice choir. It does make a lot of noise, but I quite like it actually. It announces your presence. On other wheels you kind of ride up silently behind people and they jump with surprise. Not with this wheel, because they can hear you coming from a distance. As you're riding along, all the birds are being startled and are rising from the trees, and children are leaping out of the way and cats are screaming. So this makes a lot of noise. But I guess my fifth complaint about the wheel is, if I'm being honest, is that I can't really find a fifth thing to complain about. For me, this is as good as a wheel gets. Now, will it replace all other wheels? Is it the only wheel you're ever going to need or want? Well, not for me, because I do a lot of riding in and around town and commuting on public transport, and I wouldn't want to use this wheel for getting on and off buses or trains. I imagine it was going to be hard for that, so it's not going to replace those commuter wheels. But for everything else, this is, for me, as close to perfect as a wheel gets. So I hope that has been of some help to you, found something of interest there. If you're thinking about buying a wheel, hopefully this will help you in your decision making process. And I'm going to hand back now to Jonathan, not so dressed, well-dressed Jonathan, to see how he's getting on that long-range test and to see if he makes it back to the Cock Hotel. Thank you, Jonathan. Over to you. Well, thank you, Better Dressed Jonathan. I agree with everything you've said there. There's some really good things about this wheel and some things I do want to put right. But you join me now, and I'm about halfway back between Banbury Cross and Stony Stratford, and this is the point where on the 18XL I called that journey to a stop. I called it off because I was at about 10% battery and I wasn't going to make it back. I managed to shuffle that wheel home. But I'm here now and I've got about probably about 30% left, but I've still got 13 miles to go, and I'm not taking it easy. I'm still riding at around about 28, 29, 30 miles an hour most of the way. So this is eating into my time. I've not paused my ride, but we'll see how long it takes me to get back. So I'm going to press on now. But this is going to, if I ride at 30 miles an hour for the rest of the way, this is going to be close. Will I make it back 60 miles on one charge of this? And that's thrashing it at 30 miles an hour the whole way. But we'll see. Okay, let's go. And there you have it, I'm back in one piece, and only just the last couple of miles I had to slow right down. I was down to 1 bar lit on the LCD display telling me how much power I had, and it was starting to turn me back and slow me down and beeping saying you're coming to the end of the power. But I've done a trip there of 60 miles in 3 hours on one charge of unicycle. Now that is impressive. This wheel, as I've said, is something special, and this for me is a game changer. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this episode of Wheel Life. If you have, then give me a thumbs up, a like and subscribe. Please share it with people, and hopefully I'll see you again the next time on Wheel Life.